A massive alien fleet descended upon Earth's atmosphere, their ships casting long, dark shadows over cities and oceans. People looked up in awe and fear as the sky filled with strange, glowing vessels that seemed to hum with an otherworldly energy. The Galactic Empire, a powerful force known for taking over planets and claiming their resources, had finally reached humanity's home. Panic spread like wildfire. News channels blared nonstop updates, and social media was flooded with videos of the alien ships hovering above landmarks like the Statue of Liberty and the Eiffel Tower. Governments around the world scrambled to respond. Emergency meetings were held in secret bunkers, and military forces were put on high alert. No one knew what the aliens wanted, but everyone agreed it couldn't be good. In the middle of all this chaos, a young astrophysicist named Daniel Carter received an urgent call. He was working late in his lab at a university in California when his phone rang. On the line was Commander Laura Hayes, a no-nonsense officer from a secret military base in Nevada. She told him there was something important he needed to see and that a helicopter would pick him up within the hour. Daniel didn't have time to pack or even think about what was happening. Before he knew it, he was strapped into a helicopter, watching the ground blur beneath him as they flew toward the desert. When he arrived at the base, he was taken to a secure room where Laura was waiting. She wasted no time getting to the point. "We've intercepted signals from the alien fleet," she said, her voice steady but tense. "They're encoded, and we can't make sense of them. You're the best person we have for this kind of thing." Daniel nodded, though his mind was racing. He had spent years studying complex algorithms and decoding patterns in space data, but this was different. This wasn't just numbers or distant stars. It was a message from beings who could destroy the planet. Laura handed him a tablet filled with streams of symbols and strange patterns. As Daniel began analyzing the data, he realized the task was far more complicated than he had imagined. The code was unlike anything he'd ever seen, a mix of mathematical sequences and what looked like some kind of language. Hours passed, and Daniel barely noticed. His eyes stayed glued to the screen as he worked tirelessly, trying to crack the code. Finally, he made progress. Fragments of the message started to come through. It wasn't much, but it was enough to send chills down his spine. The aliens weren't here to negotiate or explore. They were here to take what they wanted, and if Earth resisted, they would wipe it out. Laura listened intently as Daniel explained what he had found. Her expression hardened. "We need to figure out how to respond," she said. "If we don't give them what they want, we might not have much time left." Daniel nodded again, feeling the weight of the situation pressing down on him. He thought about all the people outside, going about their lives, unaware of how close humanity was to disaster. As the hours ticked by, Daniel couldn't shake the feeling that time was running out faster than anyone realized. The alien fleet showed no signs of leaving, and every second felt like it brought Earth closer to its end. But deep down, Daniel knew they had to try. There had to be a way to communicate, to make the aliens understand that Earth wasn't just another planet to conquer. For now, all they could do was keep working and hope it wouldn't be too late. After days of relentless work, Daniel finally managed to decode more of the alien signals. The messages were clearer now, though no less alarming. The Galactic Empire's demands were straightforward: surrender Earth's resources and submit to their rule, or face complete destruction. But hidden within the transmission was something else, a cryptic warning that hinted at catastrophic consequences if humanity resisted. It wasn't just a threat. It felt like a prediction, as if the Empire knew something about Earth's fate that humans didn't. Commander Laura Hayes called an emergency meeting with her superiors. She argued that simply ignoring the message or preparing for war wasn't enough. They needed to understand the Empire's intentions fully, and maybe even find a way to negotiate. After heated discussions, it was decided that Earth would attempt direct communication. A small team, including Daniel and Laura, would board a spacecraft equipped with rudimentary translation technology to meet the aliens face to face. The mission was risky, But there was no other choice. If they failed, Earth might never get another chance to speak directly with the Empire. The spacecraft chosen for the task was an experimental model, sleek and fast, designed for quick trips into orbit. As the team prepared to leave, Daniel couldn't help but feel a mix of fear and determination. He had spent his life studying the stars, but this was nothing like he had ever imagined. Now he was stepping into the unknown, hoping to save billions of lives. When the spacecraft approached the alien fleet, the sheer size of the ships was overwhelming. They looked like massive metal fortresses, bristling with weapons and glowing with eerie lights. The team was instructed to dock at a designated area, and once inside, they were greeted by a towering figure named Zoreth. His appearance was both intimidating and strange. His body covered in armor, etched with intricate symbols, his eyes glowing faintly. He spoke in a deep, resonant voice that sent shivers down their spines. Laura stepped forward, trying to remain calm. "We've come to understand your demands," she said through the translation device. "But we need answers. Why are you here? What do you really want from us?" Zoreth studied them for a moment before replying. "Your planet holds resources vital to our survival," he said coldly. "Resistance is futile. Surrender now, or face annihilation." Daniel listened carefully, his mind racing. He noticed the symbols on Zoreth's armor. They matched ancient carvings he had seen in archaeological studies. These weren't random designs. They held meaning. Could the Empire have a connection to Earth's past? Before he could ask, Zoreth added one final warning. "Do not test us. Your kind is weak and unworthy of mercy." With that, the meeting ended abruptly, and the team was escorted back to their ship. On the way home, Daniel couldn't stop thinking about those symbols. He shared his observations with Laura, who agreed they were significant. "If these symbols mean something, we need to figure it out," she said. "It might be the key to understanding why they're so determined to take Earth." Back at the base, Daniel dove into research, pulling up every document he could find on ancient civilizations. He discovered references to similar symbols in ruins scattered across the globe, ruins that predated recorded history. As pieces of the puzzle began to fall into place, Daniel realized the implications were staggering. The Empire's presence wasn't just about resources. It was tied to something deeper, something buried in Earth's forgotten past. Whatever it was, it had the potential to change everything. For now, all they could do was keep digging and hope they uncovered the truth before it was too late. Back at the secret base in Nevada, Daniel spent every waking moment studying the symbols he had seen on Zoreth's armor. He couldn't shake the feeling that they were a clue to something much bigger. Laura noticed his determination and decided to help. She authorized access to classified archaeological data, files that most people didn't even know existed. Together, they pored over ancient maps, photographs of ruins, and notes from long-forgotten expeditions. What they found was astonishing. The symbols matched carvings discovered in places like Egypt, Peru, and Easter Island, places where ancient civilizations once thrived. These carvings weren't just random designs. They seemed to tell a story about beings who came from the stars, beings who shared knowledge with early humans before disappearing without a trace. Daniel's heart raced as he pieced it together. Could the Galactic Empire be connected to these ancient visitors? And if so, did they even realize it? Laura leaned back in her chair, staring at the evidence spread across the table. "If this is true," she said slowly, "then the Empire isn't just some random threat. They're part of our history." Daniel nodded. "Exactly. And maybe they don't know it. If we can show them this connection, it might change everything." But showing them wouldn't be easy. The Empire wasn't likely to listen to words alone. They needed proof, something undeniable. Daniel suggested using Earth's most advanced satellite array to send a message directly to the Empire's central command. The message would combine visual data, images of the ancient carvings, with mathematical patterns designed to resonate universally. It was a risky plan, but Laura agreed it was worth a try. The team worked tirelessly to prepare the transmission. Engineers fine-tuned the satellites, while Daniel and Laura crafted the content of the message. They included detailed scans of the carvings, along with diagrams showing their resemblance to the symbols on Zorath's armor. They also added sequences of prime numbers and geometric shapes, hoping to appeal to the Empire's logical side. As the final touches were made, millions of people around the world tuned in to watch the broadcast. For many, it felt like humanity's last hope. When the signal shot into space, the room fell silent. Everyone held their breath, waiting for a response. Hours passed, then days. Just when it seemed like the effort had failed, the Empire replied. Their message was short but clear, coordinates leading to a remote sector of the galaxy. Daniel stared at the screen, his mind racing. What was out there? Was it a trap, or was it an invitation to uncover the truth? Laura turned to him, her expression serious. "We need to go," she said. "Whatever is at those coordinates could be the key to stopping this war." Daniel hesitated. Traveling into deep space was dangerous, especially with the Empire watching their every move. But staying behind meant leaving questions unanswered and risking Earth's future. Finally, he nodded. "Let's do it." Preparations began immediately. The experimental spacecraft *Odyssey* was chosen for the mission, its advanced propulsion systems capable of reaching the distant location. Daniel, Laura, and a small crew volunteered to make the journey. As they packed supplies and ran final checks, Daniel couldn't stop thinking about what they might find. Would the Empire welcome them, or attack them? And what secrets lay hidden at the edge of the galaxy? The night before departure, Daniel stood outside the base, staring up at the stars. He thought about how far they had come in such a short time, and how much farther they still had to go. Humanity's survival depended on this mission, and he knew there was no turning back now. With a deep breath, he turned and headed inside, ready to face whatever awaited them among the stars. The journey aboard the *Odyssey* was unlike anything Daniel or the crew had ever experienced. The spacecraft's advanced engines allowed them to travel faster than any human-made vehicle before, but even so, the trip took days. During that time, the crew worked tirelessly to prepare for whatever they might find at the coordinates. They ran simulations, checked equipment, and studied every piece of data they had about the Empire and the symbols. Despite their efforts, uncertainty hung heavy in the air. No one knew what awaited them at the edge of the galaxy. As they approached the designated location, the view outside the ship's windows left them speechless. Floating in the vast emptiness of space was a colossal structure, ancient and mysterious. It looked like a massive ring, its surface covered in the same intricate symbols they had seen on Zorath's armor and in Earth's ruins. Lights pulsed faintly along its edges, as if it were alive. The sight filled Daniel with both awe and unease. "This is it," he whispered, his voice barely audible over the hum of the ship's systems. "This is what the Empire wanted us to see." Laura gave the order to dock carefully, her hands steady on the controls. As the *Odyssey* connected to the structure, the crew suited up and prepared to explore. Armed with scanners and recording devices, they stepped inside. The interior was dimly lit, with corridors that seemed to stretch endlessly in every direction. The walls were covered in glowing patterns, shifting and changing as if responding to their presence. Daniel reached out to touch one of the symbols, and a low vibration rippled through the air. "This place feels alive," Laura said, her voice tense. "Stay alert." The team moved cautiously, following the patterns on the walls until they reached a large chamber. In the center of the room was a pedestal, and floating above it was a holographic projection. The image flickered to life, showing scenes from an ancient time. Beings from the stars working alongside early humans, sharing knowledge and technology. But then the tone shifted, revealing betrayal and conflict. The star beings turned against humanity, leaving Earth behind as they departed for the stars. Daniel watched in stunned silence, his mind racing. This was proof of what he had suspected all along. The Galactic Empire wasn't just some distant threat. They were descendants of those who had once interacted with humanity. And now, centuries later, they had returned, driven by greed and forgetting their own origins. "We have to show this to them," Daniel said, turning to Laura. "If the Empire sees this, they'll have to understand. This isn't just about Earth. It's about their history too." But retrieving the data wouldn't be easy. The pedestal emitted a low hum, and when Daniel tried to access the information, a barrier blocked him. He realized they needed to activate the structure's systems to unlock the full record. Working together, the crew deciphered the control panel nearby, using the symbols they had studied to input commands. After several tense minutes, the barrier dissolved, and the hologram expanded, showing more detailed records of the Empire's ancestors and their connection to Earth. As the crew downloaded the data, a sudden tremor shook the structure. Alarms blared, and warning lights flashed across the walls. "We've triggered something," Laura shouted. "We need to leave now." The team scrambled back to the ship, their hearts pounding as the structure began to power down around them. By the time they reached the Odyssey, the ring outside was growing darker, its lights fading. Back aboard the ship, Daniel clutched the data drive tightly, knowing it held the key to humanity's survival. As they sped away, he glanced back at the ancient relic, now silent and still. Whatever secrets it held, they were now in human hands. For the first time since the Empire's arrival, Daniel felt a glimmer of hope. If they could share this truth with the Empire, maybe, just maybe, they could stop the war before it was too late. When the Odyssey returned to Earth, Daniel and Laura wasted no time sharing their discovery. They presented the holographic records and data from the ancient structure to world leaders and military commanders. At first, many were skeptical. How could a relic floating in space hold the key to stopping an empire capable of wiping out entire planets? But as they watched the holograms and studied the symbols, doubt began to give way to understanding. The evidence was undeniable. The Galactic Empire's ancestors had once been allies of humanity's forebears. Laura argued that this revelation could change everything. "The Empire doesn't know about their own history," she explained during a tense meeting. "They've forgotten where they came from. If we show them this, it might make them rethink their plans for Earth." Some leaders hesitated, worried that revealing such information could provoke anger or even retaliation. But Daniel insisted it was worth the risk. "We don't have any other options," he said firmly. "If we don't try it, we're just waiting for them to destroy us." After much debate, the decision was made to attempt another round of negotiations. This time, Daniel would lead the effort. Armed with a data drive and a portable projector, he and Laura boarded a spacecraft bound for the alien fleet. As they approached, the massive ships loomed larger than ever, their dark surfaces gleaming under the light of the distant sun. The tension inside the ship was palpable. No one knew how the Empire would react to what they were about to show them. When they docked and entered the Empire's command center, Zoreth was waiting. His expression was unreadable as Daniel stepped forward, holding up the projector. "We found something you need to see," Daniel said through the translation device. Without waiting for permission, he activated the hologram. The room filled with images of the ancient alliance between the star beings and early humans. The Empire's officers stared in silence, their glowing eyes fixed on the shifting projections. Zoreth's voice cut through the quiet. "What is this?" he demanded, his tone sharp. Daniel took a deep breath. "This is your history. Your ancestors came to Earth long ago. They worked with humans, shared knowledge, and built civilizations together. But then something went wrong. They left, and over time, everyone forgot, including you." For a moment, no one spoke. The hologram continued to play, showing scenes of betrayal and conflict, before fading into the image of the ancient structure. Zoreth's gaze shifted between the projections and Daniel, his expression unreadable. Finally, he turned to his officers, speaking in their language. The crew couldn't understand the words, but the tone was clear: confusion and disbelief. To prove the truth, Daniel pulled out the artifact he had brought from the relic site. It was small, no bigger than his palm, but it pulsed faintly with the same energy as the structure. He activated it, and a low hum filled the room. To everyone's surprise, Zorath and his officers visibly reacted. Their armor resonated with the artifact's energy, and for a brief moment, the symbols on their suits glowed brighter. Zorath froze, his glowing eyes wide with shock. "This cannot be," he muttered, his voice quieter than before. Daniel pressed on. "It's real. You're connected to Earth in ways you didn't know. If you destroy us, you're destroying part of your own past." The room fell silent again, the weight of the revelation settling over everyone. For the first time, there was a flicker of doubt in Zorath's demeanor. Whether it would be enough to stop the Empire remained to be seen. But for now, hope lingered in the air. The silence in the command center stretched on, heavy and tense. Zorath stood motionless, his glowing eyes fixed on the artifact Daniel held. The resonance between the relic and the Empire's armor had been undeniable, and it was clear that the revelation had shaken him. Finally, he spoke, his deep voice laced with uncertainty. "How do we know this is true? How can we trust what you say?" Daniel stepped forward, his hand steady despite the tension in the room. "You don't have to trust us," he said firmly. "Trust what you just felt. Trust the symbols on your armor and the energy from the artifact. This isn't something we could have made up." Laura nodded, adding, "We're not asking for blind faith. We're showing you evidence of your own history that your leaders have hidden from you." Zorath turned to his officers, speaking in low tones. Though Daniel and Laura couldn't understand the words, the tone was clear, confusion mixed with urgency. After a few minutes, Zorath faced them again. "If what you say is true, then this changes everything," he admitted, his voice quieter than before. "But proving it will not be easy. Our leadership does not take kindly to challenges." Laura stepped in, her tone calm but firm. "We're not asking you to overthrow your leaders. We're asking you to share this truth with them, and with your people. If they see what we've shown you, they'll have no choice but to reconsider their plans for Earth." Zorath hesitated, clearly torn. He glanced at the hologram one last time, then at the artifact still humming softly in Daniel's hand. Finally, he nodded. "I will take this to my superiors, but I cannot promise how they will respond." Daniel and Laura exchanged a glance, both knowing this was the best outcome they could hope for under the circumstances. "That's all we ask," Daniel said. "Just give them a chance to see the truth." Before leaving, Zorath issued an order for the Empire's forces to stand down temporarily. It wasn't a full ceasefire, but it was enough to buy Earth some time. As Daniel and Laura returned to their ship, the weight of what they had accomplished began to sink in. They hadn't won yet, but they had planted a seed of doubt in the Empire's ranks. That alone was progress. Back on Earth, news of the temporary truce spread quickly. People celebrated cautiously, unsure if the reprieve would last. Meanwhile, Daniel and Laura worked tirelessly to prepare for the next phase. They knew that while Zorath seemed willing to listen, the Empire's higher-ups might not be so open-minded. To strengthen their case, they compiled more evidence, including detailed analyses of the ancient carvings and additional data from the relic site. Days later, Zorath contacted them with an update. His superiors were divided, caught between those who wanted to dismiss the findings as manipulation and those who believed the evidence warranted further investigation. Tensions within the Empire were rising, and there were whispers of factions forming among its ranks. Some officers, inspired by the revelations, argued that continuing the attack on Earth would mean erasing their own origins. Others dismissed the claims as irrelevant, insisting that survival and expansion were more important. As the Empire debated, Earth prepared for the worst. Military forces remained on high alert, and evacuation plans were drawn up in case negotiations failed. But Daniel refused to give up hope. He spent hours refining the presentation they would use if given another chance to address the Empire's leadership. Laura, meanwhile, coordinated with world governments to ensure unity in their response. One evening, as they reviewed their plans, Laura looked at Daniel. "Do you think it's enough?" she asked quietly. Daniel paused, then nodded. "It has to be. If we can make them see the truth, maybe we can avoid war altogether." Laura smiled faintly. "Let's hope they're ready to listen." For now, the fragile peace held, but everyone knew it wouldn't last forever. The Empire's decision loomed like a storm cloud, and the fate of Earth hung in the balance. Despite the uncertainty, Daniel felt a glimmer of optimism. For the first time, humanity wasn't just fighting for survival, they were fighting for understanding. And that, he believed, made all the difference. The Empire's response came sooner than anyone expected. Zorath contacted Earth with an urgent message. The leadership had agreed to a second meeting, but this time it would take place aboard their central command ship. The stakes were higher than ever. If humanity failed to convince them, the fragile truce would collapse, and war would resume. Daniel and Laura knew this was their last chance to make the Empire see reason. Preparations were meticulous. Daniel reviewed every detail of the presentation, ensuring it was clear and compelling. Laura coordinated with engineers to enhance the translation device, making sure nothing would be lost in communication. They also brought along additional evidence, ancient carvings from Earth, enhanced holograms, and recordings of the artifact's resonance. As they boarded the spacecraft bound for the alien fleet, tension filled the air. Everyone understood what was at risk. When they arrived at the command ship, they were escorted to a massive chamber. The room was filled with high-ranking officers, their armor gleaming under dim lights. At the center stood Zorath, flanked by two imposing figures who radiated authority. These were the Empire's leaders, the ones who would decide Earth's fate. Daniel felt a chill run down his spine as he stepped forward, the weight of billions resting on his shoulders. "This is your chance to speak," Zorath said, gesturing for Daniel to begin. Taking a deep breath, Daniel activated the hologram. The images sprang to life, showing the ancient alliance between the star beings and early humans. He explained how the Empire's ancestors had once lived and worked alongside humanity, sharing knowledge and building civilizations together. Then came the betrayal, the star beings abandoning Earth, leaving behind only ruins and forgotten symbols. As the hologram played, the room grew quieter. Some officers leaned forward, studying the projections intently. Others exchanged uneasy glances, clearly unsettled by what they were seeing. When the display ended, Daniel held up the artifact, its faint hum filling the silence. "This is proof," he said firmly. "Your connection to Earth isn't just history, it's part of who you are. Destroying us means destroying a piece of yourselves." One of the leaders stepped forward, his voice cold but curious. "Why should we care about something that happened so long ago? Survival is our priority, not nostalgia." Laura stepped in, her tone calm but firm. "Survival doesn't have to mean destruction. Working together could benefit both our peoples. You gain allies, resources, and a deeper understanding of your own origins. Isn't that worth more than conquest?" The room fell silent as the leaders conferred among themselves. After what felt like an eternity, one of them spoke. "We will withdraw for now, but Earth must agree to cooperate moving forward. Any attempt to deceive us will result in immediate retaliation." It wasn't a perfect resolution, but it was enough. A collective sigh of relief swept through the team. Back on Earth, the news sparked celebrations worldwide. Cities lit up with fireworks, and people gathered in streets and squares, cheering for the end of hostilities. But not everyone was ready to trust the Empire. Laura voiced concerns about their intentions, reminding everyone that peace wasn't guaranteed. Daniel agreed but emphasized the importance of taking this opportunity to build bridges. In the weeks that followed, joint research initiatives began, focusing on shared technologies and cultural exchanges. Strict oversight, ensured the Empire couldn't exploit Earth's resources without fair agreements. Though challenges remained, hope blossomed among the stars. For the first time in months, humanity dared to dream of a future where coexistence was possible. Daniel often found himself gazing at the night sky, reflecting on how close they had come to disaster, and how a single truth had changed everything. In the distance, the relic site glowed faintly, a reminder of the bond between two civilizations rediscovered after millennia apart. Whatever lay ahead, humanity was ready to face it, together. Months passed, and Earth began to heal. The scars of war were still visible: crumbled buildings, burned fields, and families forever changed by loss. The rebuilding efforts brought a sense of purpose. People worked together to restore what had been damaged, determined to create something stronger than before. The agreement with the Galactic Empire wasn't perfect, but it gave humanity a chance to move forward. Slowly, trust started to grow between the two civilizations. Daniel and Laura became key figures in this new era of cooperation. They led joint research teams that explored the potential benefits of working with the Empire. Scientists from both sides shared knowledge, discovering ways to improve energy systems, medicine, and even space travel. The ancient symbols, once a mystery, now served as a bridge between cultures. Teams studied them closely, uncovering more about the Empire's origins and their connection to Earth's past. But it wasn't just about technology. Cultural exchanges began to take shape, with humans and aliens learning about each other's traditions, art, and history. At first, these interactions were awkward, filled with misunderstandings and hesitation. Over time, though, curiosity replaced fear. Children drew pictures of alien ships alongside trees and houses. Musicians experimented with blending human melodies with the strange, resonant tones produced by imperial instruments. Even food found its way into the mix, as chefs tried combining ingredients from both worlds to create dishes no one had imagined before. Despite the progress, challenges remained. Some people distrusted the Empire, worried that their promises of peace were too good to be true. Laura understood their concerns and worked tirelessly to ensure transparency in all dealings. She pushed for strict rules to prevent exploitation, making sure Earth's resources were shared fairly. Daniel, meanwhile, continued to study the relic site, convinced there was still more to learn about the shared history between humans and the Empire. One evening, as Daniel stood near the site, he noticed something unusual. A faint glow emanated from the structure, pulsing gently like a heartbeat. He called Laura, and together they investigated. Inside, they discovered a hidden chamber, untouched for centuries. In the center was another artifact, larger and more intricate than the one they had shown the Empire. When Daniel touched it, holograms sprang to life, showing scenes of hope and unity, visions of humans and aliens working side by side to build a better future. "This is what we've been missing," Daniel said softly, his voice filled with awe. "It's not just about avoiding war. It's about creating something new, a partnership built on understanding and respect." Laura nodded, her expression thoughtful. "We need to share this with the Empire. If they see this, it might solidify the bond between us." The next day, they presented the discovery to Zoreth and his superiors. The Empire's leaders watched the holograms in silence, their glowing eyes reflecting the images. When it ended, one of them spoke. "Perhaps our ancestors left this behind for a reason," he said slowly. "A reminder that cooperation is possible, even after betrayal." From that moment on, the relationship between Earth and the Empire shifted. What had started as a fragile truce grew into a genuine alliance. Projects expanded, bringing advancements that benefited both civilizations. Humanity, once on the brink of destruction, now stood as an equal partner in a vast interstellar community. As years went by, Daniel often thought about how far they had come. The journey hadn't been easy, but every step had been worth it. Looking up at the stars, he felt a deep sense of pride, not just for what humanity had achieved, but for the connections they had forged. For the first time in history, Earth wasn't alone. It was part of something greater, a shared destiny written in the stars.